This is a tool I've been working on in Reaper called the Granulator. And one of my favorite things about this is it allows you to combine items together, item grains together in interesting ways. You can also do it across tracks to get different processing and end up with some interesting results. So to demonstrate this, I have a VO line.
Nuclear launch detected.
And you can, of course, begin by selecting the number of grains you want to split it into. If you have dynamic grains set, it's going to always split each item, if you do multiple items, into the specified number of grains here, which means if you have different size items, the grains are going to be different sizes, so you can see. However, you can turn this off, and now this becomes a slice based on a time interval. So if I set this, select my items, and then process, now the grains across different size items are going to be the same. Back to dynamic grains. So if I process this and, actually let me turn that off. If I process this and play,
Nuclear launch detected.
you're not going to really hear anything. So let's introduce some random order chance. And I'm going to go all the way to 100, which means that 100% of the items have a chance of being randomly ordered amongst all the other grains. So we get
Nuclear launch detected.
Okay, there are some pops there, so you can add some fade times. Also have fade curves, which correspond to these here, 0 to 6. I'll keep these at linear for now and process.
Nuclear launch.
And I think we got rid of the pops more or less. We have random pan strength, and what this does is on a stereo setup, it's going to randomly pan if you have it set to 100%. Each grain has a chance of being randomly panned from hard left all the way to hard right. But something like 50% would reduce that angle. So we'll set this to 100. We get
Nuclear launch detected.
So we get them jumping around a little bit now. So there's a reverse chance here, and if I set this to 50, it means each individual grain has a 50% chance of being reversed.
Nuclear launch detected.
Which you can kind of hear.
Nuclear launch detected.
Let me set it to 100. Let me reduce the number of grains. There we go. So that can be useful sometimes. Random pitch range, random volume range. So we can do random pitch like so.
Nuclear launch detected.
Or you can stretch it, and now it's going to change the size of the items as well.
Nuclear launch detected.
And it's going to compensate for their positioning. Random volume is pretty simple. We have this positional offset. So if I set these values to positive, then each grain is going to have a little bit of silence in between.
Nuclear launch detected.
However, if I set them to negative values, they're going to start to overlap a bit. We have this blend option here. And if I check that and items overlap, now they're going to blend or crossfade between each other. This also works across tracks, where if I combine these items together, it's going to keep that blend. And then there are some fade in and fade outs that you can mess around with. So now let's work with multiple items, and I can do this either on the same track or not. We just have to make sure that combined items is checked. And then as I process, it's going to alternate between all the grains of the items that were selected. If I turn this off, remember it's going to process the items separately. Let me turn the random positioning off. And I can have as many items as I want, and it's going to combine them together in interesting ways. Like that. Now, if I play this,
Nuclear launch.
let me turn off the random pitch as well. Now let's introduce some random order. So what it's going to do is combine the items and then randomize the order. Let me set this to 100.
Nuclear launch. Nuclear launch detected. Launch detected. Nuclear launch detected.
So we get that sort of thing. We can also do this across tracks, and I have some processing set up, and this is where you can get some interesting results when combining items. Let me get rid of the random order. we'll do a little bit of overlap with this negative position offset. Let's introduce some random pitch. Let's reduce the pan strength. Let's see what this sounds like.
Nuclear launch. Detect.
I'm going to get rid of this negative pitch because it's slowing things down a little too much.
Nuclear launch. Detect.
And let's see if I can push this back even a little bit more. And I'll keep these even. So negative 0.07. Negative 0.07. And let's up the number of grains a little bit.
Nuclear launch. Detect.
So you can get some interesting results by playing around with that. Now that's processing VO, but what I like to use this for mostly is sound design, processing different sounds. What I did was I took one texture and processed it differently across multiple tracks to get some interesting results. So here's just what this sounds like. So pretty cool. And let me delete this. I had a little preset here which is saved. So I turn this on and select all these three and process, and we get this. So that's from this. So it's already creating a little bit of new movement from the material. But I can also now turn on some effects and process each of these tracks differently, and it gets a little more interesting. So you can really start to kind of transform and combine different textures together to get some interesting results. So that's an example of using the same sound across different tracks. But I think what's even cooler is taking different items or different sounds and trying to combine them together in interesting ways, which is what I've done here. I've actually taken 6 different textures. So we have stuff like this, and this, and this, and this, and this. And then I can, I'm going to duplicate these. And I also have a preset which was saved. Okay, so I can select all these now and then process them. And what's nice is it's positioned them all so they're not overlapping too much, which could just lead to kind of a mess. But it spaces out based on the settings that I've provided. So let's take a listen. So it gives you a lot of stuff to work with. I also added Traveler on top to kind of get some Doppler effects. I can select them all again and hit process to get different results.